you know?
Discipline, it's a different discipline in that certainly procedurally the discipline is dramatically changed. I think one of the failures of digital is that there is a discipline that's lost, and that is that when you shot on film, you had 9 minutes to capture the story, and then you had to reload. That was not unlike when an actor stepped in front of that camera, they were at risk. If the director didn't choose to do it take two, that was it. And that was the movie that you were going to see yourself in. And so everybody had a place and a procedural turn at doing or accomplishing their technique. So you have the makeup and hair and sound department, cinematographer, lighting people, the grip to people. They would all have to fall within that range outside of those 9 minutes and find a way of making it almost like a first night on a Broadway show. Whereas when that drape opens, that proscenium drape opens, and that performer is standing in front of that audience, you can't have makeup come out in the middle of that performance and fix something. You can't have the lighting designer come in and change something. You can't say, well, I don't really want the audience to see from this perspective. I want to change the perspective. I want to bring them upstage or downstage. All that risk made the energy of film in some ways more dangerous and more interesting. You look at a film like Casablanca or Touch of Evil, there is a subliminal danger amongst those images because they know they're not going to, unless you're William Wyler, you're not going to do 30 or 40 takes to get there. Whereas today, with digital, you can keep the camera running all day long. And I think that because of that, there is a disengagement of every artist so that they feel like, well, they'll find it in the end. They'll find my best performance, whether you're an actor, cinematographer, or anybody. The only person that's affected dramatically by that is the film editor, the editor, because they have to find their way through all of that to find the best performance. And I don't think they always do because there's not that much time.
Yeah, do you think you're giving the editor too much power if you give them too much
footage? Well, they're giving the
footage?
studio too much power, the producer too much power. And that's why there's directors like William Wyler or John Huston or people like that you don't find as many of. That's why most projects look the same. It's because there's too much homogeny. And I feel like that if you're going to put the artists at risk, you have to put the audience at risk. And that means that everything has to have a structural discipline that will allow you to find what's best for that moment. The moment is everything. As Alan Davio said years and years ago, he said, the only reality is that which is within the frame. Anything outside the frame doesn't exist. The only truth for us as film goers is that which is on that image. And that's kind of fun.
Yeah, well, that's really insightful.
And so if we can harness that, because right now we're still having trouble harnessing this technology because it keeps getting better and better and better. And so how do we harness it and make it better, make it our own, where it's not your voice as a manufacturer, it's my voice. And I think that's where we will get to when we get to the point where we got in the early 70s where the zoom lens was just another tool. But before that, the zoom lens was everything. But now it's just, it's another tool. We use it, we don't use it. And LEDs, we use it, we don't use it. We use blue light, red light. It's just instead of, we're all in the look at me stage. Everybody's saying, look at my image. My image is so incredible. But the truth of the matter is we need to find, instead of a communal voice, we need to find something that's more specific.
It's tough. It seems like so much kind of went away with like film going out. You had different like film processes and timing. I mean,
but it's always the way with new technology. It's people are frightened. Of all people that should not be frightened, artists are the most frightened people in the world because because they want to feel safe within their environment. They don't want to work outside the box. Well, I contend that the greatest filmmakers I ever knew never knew there was a box. They were always outside the box, always with outside the parameters. Like with Conrad Hall, you want to put a light there. Why would you put a light there? Why would you not? Why would you create an image that is virtually black and just have something within that frame that's informative? Like Jennifer A is a perfect example. And that was because Conrad was saying, I'm letting you see this from her point of view. She's blind. And I'm wanting you to see what she's seeing, my interpretation of what she's seeing as a blind person. And I think we need to be more risk takers, but in that risk, I think it's not really risky, it's just telling the story.
Right. Yeah, I think it's easy to kind of forget that, yeah, the photography should be telling the story.
Yeah, and that's why you love going back to still photography, is because it's really you and that story that you're capturing. And you may only find that one time, that one moment in time. I mean, I remember I was pulling out of a car wash and I found this image that was so striking to me, and I captured it with my iPhone. I thought, wow, I wish I'd had a Hasselblad with me. And I went back the next day and it wasn't there anymore. It will never be there again. But it's forcing yourself to listen to your heart, your soul, your mind, and say, this is important. I need to find this and I need to capture it right now. I don't have the right stuff. I might not even be in the right place, but this is what I need to do at this moment in time.
It's funny. I've had those images that I haven't had a camera, and they still haunt me. I can think back to like.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
It is. It's not despair. It's really wonderful because it sort of informs everything you do in the future.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, the pictures that we don't take that inform how we think of the world and see the world, that's magic.
Well, that's the critical thing I think we need to remember, is that we are all provincial. We were all raised individually and uniquely differently by parents, situation, environment, cultural difference. And what we end up doing is we all kind of come to quote unquote Hollywood. And we want to embrace the Hollywood spirit. And the fact of the matter is, you look at the greatest filmmakers of all time, John Hughes, William Wilder, Billy Wilder. I mean, none of them came from America. None of them came from Hollywood. They all came from desperate places and places that they were cast out of, and they had to find their way to communicate. Even though they couldn't speak the language, they had to find a way to communicate what it was that they wanted to say. And what made those films so uniquely individual was not that they were Hollywood movies, but because they had uniquely provincial voices. That's why the Japanese filmmaker, the Chinese filmmaker, that they should never lose their place within the community, the international community. It's critically important that we're not all one. We are all uniquely different.
Wow, yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, what are some of the movies that really inspired you to get into filmmaking?
Oh my, all of them, for different reasons. Some bad, and I say, well, I don't want to ever do that. You know, it's hard to do because that once again is parking me in a box. I don't want to be in that box. I mean, I could tell you things like The Last Year of Marienbad, Uninvited, Nicole Kidman's The Others, The Innocents, Magnificent Ambersons. I mean, I could tell you things like that, but you would not see my work in any of them. It's because I'm so desperate not to be pigeonholed, although we all have barriers that we're constantly trying to break out. I am limited as we all are, but that's part of the uniqueness of what makes us each individuals and why we need each other.
Right. It's important to be inspired, but you don't want to emulate someone else's
Exactly.
work. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Cinemascope film?
Cinemascope. I would say that it's probably two films, Last Year at Marienbad and The Uninvited with Deborah Carr. And the reason I loved The Uninvited was Freddie Francis, the cinematographer, didn't light the entire frame sometimes. There were times when she was going through her night traverses through the house, and you don't know if there's a ghost in the house or if it's really her psyche that's causing her problems. And so he only allows you to see where she's at, and then there's this subtle parts of the sides of the frame where you don't see anything. I mean, you see little tiny bits and pieces where you think, like you would when you're walking to a house at night, is that something over there? I can't see well enough to know. And I love that. And that's why I love The Innocents so much, is for that, because it was made in the 60s. That was not an innovative time for filmmaking necessarily, especially in England. And last year, Marienbad is just structurally such a powerful film, as far as, and most people don't even know the film, and they look at the film and they don't realize that in its complexity, it's incredibly simple, and it's all about it's linear lines and structural compositions, but they all have a purpose. So that's from one side of anamorphic to the other.
Love that. It's versatile. It's a more versatile format than people give
Well, the
credit
truth is
for.
that I don't understand why anybody shoots anything non-anamorphic. I feel like anamorphic it can be everything. You just have to use the tool for what it's there for. I mean, you don't have to use the entire frame. Use what serves the purpose of the story.
We're finding new ways to use anamorphic lenses too, by turning the camera 90 degrees so that your imager is taller, and then you can deliver a one-to-one format or near square format, but still have all the aspects of anamorphic imaging.
Was that Lighthouse? Was that?
That was on Baltar's.
Yes, but I mean that was the idea.
Yeah.
Which to me is all great, because it's just one person saying, "I'm going to tell you a story, and this is how I'm going to allow you to see my story." And to me, there is no rule. In fact, we have to find a way of breaking the rule.
Love that.
Yeah, I think, getting into unique aspect ratios, which seems to be kind of catching on more and more, and I think like once we
The old aspect ratios were only there because the optics, that's all they could do, and they were trying to overcome television. And the 255, 235, 2-to-1, whatever it ended up being, and all of the above, I think kind of was a restriction. That was a restriction they placed upon themselves, and we don't need to do anymore.
That's pretty exciting to have the freedom now to explore those territories.
It's all about you. It's all about you, your voice. It's all about, not about the stuff. It's never about the stuff. I mean, you can shoot with the finest anamorphic lenses in the world and shoot something that looks horrible. And you can shoot with the least anamorphics in the world and it's gorgeous. It's all in the interpreter.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I've seen some pretty bad movies on exceptional glass, and seen some amazing things just on, that's what you filmed it on. It's all who's.
It doesn't
behind
matter
the
anymore.
camera. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's all about the storyteller. It always has been about the storyteller. But we're now just beginning to get our sea legs and realizing that it's all about us. You don't have to have the best camera. You don't have to have the best glass. You don't have to have the best lights. You don't have to have what everybody else tells you you should have. You should have what you can afford to service your story. And when I go out and teach seminars, I say, please don't wait till you can afford to buy the finest of everything. Go out and make the movie that you're meant to make.
And some of the best movies were made that way.
Always.
Yeah, just
Always, in spite of everything. If you think about it, there were only really two lens manufacturers in the 30s and the 40s. There was only one camera manufacturer. And all those uniquely different voices were found within those tools. So what happens now?
because now it seems like the range of cameras and lenses is bigger than ever. Whereas
now,
back then, I didn't even. realize
warning! You've got to find your own voice, because it's not about the stuff anymore.
Yeah.
It's not about the stuff. The stuff is there to serve you. You don't have to serve the stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
What we like to say is the world of cinematography is in your hands,
It is.
right?
And always should have been. And for a few, it was. I mean, George Barnes, Greg Tolan, George Folsey, Joe Ruttenberg. I mean, Joe Ruttenberg with Gaslight, George Folsey with Meet Me in St. Louis. Other films certainly over that. I mean, George Barnes was taught everybody. George Barnes, Greg Tolan was George Barnes' assistant, then his operator, as was Harry Stradling, as were many people. George Barnes invented a lot of the things that we think of, but regrettably for George, he was an alcoholic, and so kind of lost his way, which is dangerous because it's so easy to lose your way when everything is given to you and you have no barricades, no risks, and so now it's become you against yourself. And how do I face myself and make sure that I'm being the best self that I can possibly be?
Wow, what an inspirational discussion we've had today. I know Eric might have had a couple questions about Dream Warriors, which is one of his favorites.
Yeah, I grew up with so much of your work, but yeah. I guess like working on like Dream Warriors, it was like pretty much all practical special effects, and then going
It was
into
all physical, all mechanical, optical, nothing really aside from the hanging. But I think that the things that are optical effects are worst effects. When she falls through the chair, that was done on set. That was a mechanical effect. I mean, I came onto that film. They fired the first cinematographer after 3 days. I had no prep at all. The first day that I was on that set was the junkyard, the car junkyard. We'd not seen the junkyard. I had my crew come in. All the crew had been fired. My crew came in, and we literally, within an hour, lit that entire junkyard with all of its flashing lights, with the car lights, all that, within 1 hour. And that was working on instinct, which is one thing I've kind of forgotten to talk about. Don't work on intellect. If you work on your intelligence, you'll place yourself within what you know. But if you work on instincts, you're going to force yourself out of what your comfort zone is, out of what is your intelligent response to reaction to what's in front of you. And that's what a documentarian does. They're following on instinct as a still photographer as well. And I think that for me, the fact that my mentor had taught me, you don't get a turn. You don't get a turn. If an actor wants to change their position, if the director says that's not what I want to do this instead, you have to turn on that, and you have to find a way of doing it. And the quality of who you are is going to be based upon how quickly you can turn around and find another way of supporting that. And so for me on Nightmare on Elm Street, it was constantly that, because I didn't know any of the prep that had been done. I'd never worked with that director for tour before, and that director could turn on a dime, and often did. Chuck Russell was a guy who was really kind of discovering and exploring what was in front of the camera in every moment. And I admired him for that, because it would have been easy for him, being a heavy effects-laden project, it would have been easy for him to kind of just play it safe, but he never played it safe. And so for me, I was the perfect partner, because I wanted to be at risk. I wanted to celebrate the diversity of what we were doing in front of us.
I think that really shows, because that's like the most like wild and fun of that series. I think. I don't know. I'm really big fan.
Well, for me, it was. We had some really good co-authors. I mean, Roy Wagner, Frank Darabont, and Chuck. Chuck had a great sense of dark humor, and that dark humor came through. And I think that changed that whole franchise. Before, Freddie was just something to contend with, and he was frightening. But Freddie had a sense of humor which made him not only frightening, but dangerous. Because he had no morals. He was totally amoral now. Before, there was sort of a structure for him, and now there was no structure.
And that's when the character, was really born and shined through. And
yeah.
That's what...
And the sequence, the Welcome to Prime Time Bitch sequence, where she's embraced into the television set. Robert Englund came up with that line on the set. That's not in the script.
Wow.
I mean, that's kind of the fun of that, that is to really kind of everybody working on all cylinders and kind of contributing like that all the way through. And that was Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's so cool. And yeah, the best movies are movies that were like a collaborative process where everyone has input like that. Like we're just talking about Blade Runner with Rutger Hauer's Tears in the Rain speech that he improvised, and
And Jordan Cronenweth was an exceptional cinematographer, but he was being pushed beyond his limits by the director, and I think that's why that film has such an exceptional voice, an exceptional look, is that someone was being put at great risk and doing things that they were not accustomed to doing, but they had the technical know-how to do it.
So that goes back to kind of the danger of film and working with your instincts.
Please, anybody watching this, forget about what you know, because what you know is just a limited part of who you are.
Wow. I'm walking out of this feeling inspired for my life today. So thank you so much, Roy.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Roy, for the incredibly insightful conversation.
It's my pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, this has been an incredible interview with Mr. Roy Wagner, ASC, from Las Vegas, NAB 2023. Any parting words you'd like to share with us? I mean, you've shared so much wisdom and inspiration today. I'm just feeling ready to jump up and say hi to everyone here at the show and have a great time.
Go take pictures. Just celebrate your life. Find the story in front of you. Don't look down, look up, look around you. Find those things that are the essence of what inspires you. Because as Ansel said, it wasn't that one picture. It was those elements within that picture that informed what I'd seen in that wide shot. And so just find that inspires you.
Wow, thank you again. Really
I've been doing
appreciate
this
it.
for over 55 years, and I'm still every day inspired by capturing images.
That's the best feeling.
I love that.
Hope everyone else out there is feeling inspired and ready for a great day. Thank you so much for joining us live from Las Vegas with Mr. Roy Wagner, ASC. We'll see you next time. Cheers. Really tremendous interview. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Also, you're a great interview.
I still haven't gotten to test the Atlas lenses.
Oh wow.
We got to change that. Yeah.
You know, I tried to use them, and they want me to have an insurance form. I said, I'm a cinematographer. I don't insure anything. But I think you've gotten burned a few times by film students.
There's been a few things that have happened, but